In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your front lower ball joint. Let's get started. Let's remove the wheel, 21mm socket, remove all 5 of your lug nuts, and then pull the wheel off. Take the wheel off. Remove the axle nut. You need a 30mm 12-point for these fasteners. Keep in mind, they are pretty tight. And now you just want to make sure your axle pushes through the hub, which this one does, so that's perfect. I don't have to worry about it. If it doesn't, get a punch and a hammer, break it free because you don't want this to be seized up in here. When you pull the hub, if it is, it's going to separate the inner CV joint. Next, there are 3 17mm fasteners to be removed, 2 nuts, and 1 bolt. Okay, move the ball joint to the side. I'm going to try and give you an overall look as to what I'm doing here. I'm pulling on the knuckle and the whole suspension set up here, but pushing the axle through that way and trying to keep this separated. So this is naturally going to want to turn because the tie rod's still connected. To help it, I'm going to push that side tie rod out a little bit, turning the steering wheel. There we go. I'm going to apply some heat to the nut, which will hopefully help it break free. Pay attention how you direct your heat because you don't want to melt or damage other components that are in this area. Okay, let's see what we can do now. Move this ball joint out of the way. Take your pickle fork, and we're going to use this to separate the ball joint from the knuckle. What this does is it's going to basically put pressure on both sides and forcefully break it free. Hammer it in. There you go. Take the new ball joint, slide it through, put the new nut on top of it to secure it. This is now a 21mm. Before we torque this, I'm going to have to put the ball joint through the control arm. Otherwise, what's going to happen is this whole knuckle is going to just wobble around as I try to torque it. So pull down on this arm. Of course, we're going to have to take it back out to put the axle in, but I can't torque it with the axle in there, so it's going to be a 2-step process. Now let's torque it. 76 foot-pounds is the torque for this. Okay, so that's tightened. Now we need to line up the cotter pin slot with the hole in the stud, and it almost lines up, so I'm going to go a little bit more. You always want to keep tightening to line this up and never loosen. Mine lines up right here, so I'm going to stick this through and take the cotter pin and bend it over to lock it in. Now let's separate this lower control arm from the ball joint again so we can put the axle through. Let's coat the splines of the axle in anti-seize. This will help it not get stuck inside the hub in the future. Slide it into the wheel bearing and hub, and if it doesn't line up, just give it a twist. The splines should fall in. There we go. That's pushed through, not all the way, but it's seated, and now we have to put the ball joint back on the control arm. So now let's get this ball joint back in. The new hardware is 19mm in size. Put back both of the mounting nuts as well as the mounting bolt for the ball joint. Now the bolt might not go in right away just because it won't line up. But whatever you do, try to start it by hand because you don't want this cross-threading. Let's bottom the mount. 66 foot-pounds is the torque for these 3. All right, now let's put the axle nut back on. I'm using an impact gun for this, but I'm not going to tighten it with this. I'm just using this to run it down quickly, and then we'll use our torque wrench and torque it to 159 foot-pounds. To prevent the hub from spinning, I'm going to use my pry bar and stick it in here to hold it while I torque this down. Okay, now you'll notice the axle has a cutout here. That's because we want to punch the axle nut in, and that's how you lock it in place. So take a punch and a hammer and make a little indent. Doesn't have to be a lot. This is enough to prevent it from backing out by itself. Now let's put the wheel on. Put back all 5 of your lug nuts, bottom them out, and then torque them to 76 foot-pounds. And double check them. There you go, take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.